iterator. So I'm here to get the word out on iterators. See, it's all just a little overwhelming because I say iterator like 50,000 times in this talk. So one note, though, when you're using a directory iterator, if you don't have permission to a file, you will get an unexpected value exception. So be aware of that. Wrap it in a try-catch. So how many people are on 5.3 or greater? Who's on less than 5.3? That's hurtful. It really is. I know. I was there at one point. I'm still on 5.3. I'd love to be on 5.5. My personal projects are, but not my full-time gig. Anyways, so if you're on 5.3, definitely use the file system iterator. One of the simple differences is it has skip dots is on by default. So with the directory iterator, you actually have to go is dot to check, because if the output's going to be dot, 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 and then the files. And if you try to do something on one of those, it's not really a file. So file system iterator by default skips all the dots, so you don't have to do those random checks. It's just saving you a little bit. And file system actually extends the directory iterator right there. So if you're on 5.3 or greater, use file system iterator over directory iterator. The glob iterator. How many people have actually used like glob outside of an iterator? Well, there is a glob iterator, which is pretty helpful. I can just do libs and star and just list out a bunch of files. I could also put star.php if I only want to just the .php files. So, like I said, it's quick and dirty. The one thing about glob is there is no, well, I guess it kind of makes sense, but there's no recursive iterator for the glob. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then we move on to the recursive tree iterator. This one really, I struggle to find many uses besides just CLI type stuff. But if you just do the directory tree iterator, it automatically formats it and outputs it like that. So you could actually see the structure of certain folders. So I can see where that's helpful for command line apps. I don't know how many other options. Maybe I'm just not creative enough to come up with a good idea. But I tried. So with the tree iterator, you actually have the option to change what some of these symbols are. So you could actually change the prefix left, the prefix right, and change it to be whatever type format you want. So if you had some special type of pattern that you needed, you could use that to just automatically implement it. Seems kind of cool, I guess. But once again, only time I've ever used the tree iterator is just for CLI stuff. Yeah.
You can basically set anything in the print, right?
Yeah. Yes, me and somebody else tried to do it that way, but it was like it was somewhere at the end that it was giving us issues. Like there was one that we couldn't override. So, yeah, believe me, my menu idea, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Oh, there's one little thing that didn't work, and it had to be changed in the core to actually make it work. So that's why I wish it could work out that way, but it just never did. So probably my second favorite thing in iterators is the filter iterator. This is one of those outer wrapper iterators. It will actually filter out stuff without you having to do much of anything. So a common problem, I have all these version control folders, and when I list out my directory, I don't want to see any .svn, or if I'm in the root, I don't want to see a .git folder. I don't want you to even mess with that. So right here, we create a filter iterator. So the only thing you have to do with a filter iterator is define the accept method. Return true if you accept this, or false if you don't accept it. So if a version control folder is in there, return false, and it won't show up. So pretty much, I would just I'd wrap a directory iterator with this no DCS iterator, and if I for each of that, it would never show up. So it makes it really easy to filter out data and it's reusable. You can put, as long as it's an iterator that's going inside of this filter iterator, you're covered. So let's say I need to see all the images that are greater than 5 megs. This is just another example of using the filter iterator. I have my image types, so it's kind of like a whitelist, and then I'm just checking on the current. So this is the current element that we're working on in our iteration. Checking the extension because we have an SPL file info. Is it a safe image? Is the size greater than 5 megs? Okay, cool, return it. And that's essentially what it would look like right there. I have my directory iterator that's passed into my large image filter. So it's something that you could easily reuse and, continually wrap to, combine and do some really cool things. So one thing to make note that you need to actually, if you're wanting to count something, you need to count the inner iterator to get the. You can't like a filter iterator. If you try to put a count on the outside of that, it's going to return you 1. If you have to go in and get the inner iterator and run a count on that if you actually want to get the count. That's just something that I tripped some people up when they were dealing with iterators, so thought it might be worth mentioning. So the regex iterator. Essentially, we have split, replace, match all, or all matches. And so pretty much it's just like using preg match, in PHP, but it's built into an iterator. So right here, I have my array iterator of test1, test2, test3. Have my expression set right here, and I'm saying, hey, I want you to do a replace here. And then you define the property replacement. And then when I iterate over it, the output would be 1:test, 2:test, 3:test. So you could, and the great thing is I'm not destroying my original content. My original content is still the same. I'm just wrapping it in this regex iterator that is just changing the output when we iterate over it. So the parent iterator. So I didn't want to really go too in depth on this one because the iterator actually makes sense. It's a filter iterator that only accepts elements that have children. That's a parent iterator. It's a parent of children. Okay, makes sense. Moving on. So the limit iterator. So a lot of people are thinking, hey, I'll just use the limit iterator instead of doing my MySQL limit and offsets. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Still use that. There's other cases where this makes sense. Not replacing your limit and offset in MySQL, that's not what this is made for. So in this one case, I had a feed coming in, and they didn't offer me the control to say, hey, only give me this many records. No, they just sent it all and then left it up for me to decide what to do with it. So just like doing any kind of pagination type stuff, I get my current page, how many I want per page, get the result offset, and then there's my data for the iterator. So we have our iterator, our offset, and how many we want per page. And even if I got 50 back, it's only once I do the for each, it's only going to output 10, and it's done. Now, if you try to go beyond how many pages or how many offset, if your offset's past where it needs to be, you're going to get an out of bounds exception. So that's something to keep in mind. So once again, this is what I used it for. I had a Zen feed for RSS, and I was just doing a limit iterator. I just wanted five records. So it's pretty easy. So how many people are on 5.4? More hand raising, I know. So in 5.4, they introduced the callback filter iterator. We love our anonymous functions now. The one thing I want to say about the callback filter iterator, it's great. All it is you can now use an anonymous function instead of having to extend a class and change the accept method. I want you to be careful when doing this because it's not, if this is something that you're going to reuse a lot, maybe it probably should be its own class. It shouldn't be in just an anonymous function except. I worry about testability a little bit too. So it's cool where you don't actually have to create a whole new class if you just want to quickly do a filter, but just be cautious. So I need to find all the files that contain the word recursive, but don't want to create a new class to extend it. So right here we just have our glob iterator. So I just want PHP files, but I only want PHP files that actually have, and yes, I know I could have used the regex for this one, but pretty much. So every file that actually has the word recursive in the file. So recursive files, those are the two files that came back from a list of files I